Have you ever stopped to think about this? You don't just have a mind. You're actually building one every single day. It's so easy to think of our minds as, this fixed thing we're stuck with. But what if we thought of ourselves as architects? What if we could design and build a mental space that's not just functional, but genuinely beautiful? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. So let's just pause for a second. I want you to ask yourself this honestly. What does your inner world feel like right now, right this minute? Is it kind of like a chaotic construction site? Loud and messy, stuff everywhere, projects started but never finished? Or is it more like a tranquil, well-designed home, a place of calm and clarity? And hey, this isn't about judging yourself at all. It's just about taking an honest look at the property before we start drawing up the new blueprints. Because, you see, that's what this is all about. We're not just going to list off a few habits or life hacks. No, we're going way deeper. We're handing you the actual blueprint for building an elevated mind, a step-by-step plan to transform that construction site into a place you truly love to live. And the best part? You're the architect. We're just giving you the tools. Okay, let's get to work. First things first, the foundation. I mean, every architect knows you can't build a skyscraper on shaky ground, right? It all starts with a solid foundation. And for our minds, that foundation is all about awareness. It's about being willing to look at the plot of land, our own minds, and see what's really there before we start pouring any concrete. This step, it's absolutely crucial. So, the very first cornerstone we're going to lay is something called radical self-honesty. Now, this sounds intense, but it's not about beating yourself up. It's actually the complete opposite. It's just looking at your own thoughts, your real motives, your fears, but with this calm, non-judgmental eye. It's being able to say, okay, I'm feeling jealous right now, and just leaving it at that. Not jumping to, oh, I'm a terrible person. Just pure, simple observation. And there's this quote from the physicist Richard Feynman that just hits the nail on the head. He said, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Isn't that the truth? Our ability to lie to ourselves is just endless. We make up all these stories to protect our egos, to dodge feeling uncomfortable. Radical self-honesty is the tool that helps us cut right through all that noise to get to what's real. All right, the second big piece of our foundation is using solitude as a strategy. Look, in the world we live in, being alone is often seen as a bad thing, right? Like you're failing at being social. But an elevated mind completely reframes that idea. It's not about being lonely. It's about being alone on purpose, creating a quiet space where your own thoughts can actually be heard. Think of it as a time you schedule to just walk the property of your mind and check in on things. Okay, so our foundation is poured and solid. Now it's time to put up the framework. These are the big, important parts, the load-bearing walls, the support beams of our mental house. This is the stuff that gives it strength, that lets it stand tall when the storms roll in, and that supports everything else we're going to build on top. First up in the framework is something called intellectual humility, and I love this analogy for it. Think of it as designing your mental home with tons of big windows and open doors, Intellectual arrogance is when you brick up all the windows and lock the doors. You just end up in a stuffy, dark echo chamber. But humility, that throws the windows open. It lets in fresh air, new light, different points of view. It's basically the superpower of being able to say, you know what? I might be wrong about that. Or I don't know, but I want to find out. Next, we need to install the climate control system. And that is emotional regulation. Let's be clear. Your emotions are not the enemy. They're actually really important messengers. But if you let a hurricane of anger or a deep fog of sadness take over and design the whole house, well, you're going to have a pretty miserable place to live. Regulation is all about being able to feel the temperature, check the weather report, and then consciously adjust the thermostat yourself. And this is such a critical difference to understand. You see suppression on one side, that's just pretending the feeling isn't there. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a ton of energy, and you know what? Eventually, it's going to pop right back up, probably in your face. But on the other side, you have regulation. That's where you say, okay, I feel anger. Why is it here? What is it trying to tell me? It's about processing, not pretending. Huge difference. I love this quote. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. That space, that's everything. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic, that's the stimulus. Your immediate urge to lay on the horn, that's the response. But that little pause you can create in between, that's where your power is. And the more we work on our mental architecture, the bigger that space gets, and in that space, that's where we find our freedom. Okay, The last piece of the framework we're putting up is perspective shifting. So if intellectual humility was about installing the windows, this is about actually walking over to each and every one of them and taking a good long look outside. It's the skill of seeing a problem not just from your own point of view, but being able to imagine it from all sorts of different angles. That kind of mental flexibility, that's a huge sign of a strong, resilient structure. All right, the foundation is solid, the framework is strong, the house is built. But right now, it's just an empty shell. So now comes the fun part, the interior design. This is where we turn this structure into a place that feels like home, a place filled with meaning and beauty and purpose. So, how do we decorate? Well, the first thing we're going to do is become a master questioner. See, a lot of us think a brilliant mind is one that's just stuffed full of answers. But an elevated mind, that's one that's guided by really good questions. It's kind of like the difference between just filling your house with random furniture and carefully choosing each piece because you know exactly why it belongs there. Constantly asking why, that's how you furnish your mind with real understanding, not just a bunch of facts. And this is a really big shift in thinking, right? In school, at work, we're always rewarded for having the right answer and having it fast. But the architect of their own mind knows something deeper. They know that a powerful question is like finding a mysterious key. You use it, and suddenly it unlocks a door to a whole new room in your house that you never even knew was there. And now for the centerpiece of our home, the fireplace, the hearth, the heart of the whole building. That's purposeful living. This is your guiding star, your core design principle. It's the big why behind this whole project. Because when you're crystal clear on your values, on what really matters to you, then every single choice you make, from how you start your morning to where you put your energy, becomes intentional. It all starts to align with that grand vision for your life. So there we have it. The foundation is laid, the framework is up, the interior is beautifully designed. But a house, no matter how perfect, isn't really a home until someone lives in it. So this last section is about just that. How do we live inside this amazing architecture we've built? What's the philosophy of the inhabitant? And that philosophy really is all about embracing impermanence. It's this deep, deep understanding that the beautiful mind you've built isn't some static museum piece that you put behind glass. No way. Life is going to happen. The furniture is going to get rearranged. Storms are going to rattle the windows. Feelings will come and go, just like the weather. And the key is to accept that constant flow instead of fighting it. It's not about trying to stop change from happening. It's about having built a structure that's so strong and so well designed that it can handle the change, that it can evolve gracefully. So if you take away only one thing from all of this, let it be this. A beautiful mind isn't something you find. It's something you build. You are not just a passenger in your own head. You are the architect. You are the builder. And every single time you're honest with yourself, every time you pause before reacting, every time you ask a deep question, that's another brick you're laying, perfectly in place. So let's just recap the whole blueprint one last time. These are your architectural pillars. You've got the foundation, radical self-honesty and solitude as a strategy. Then the framework, intellectual humility, emotional regulation, and perspective shifting. Then the interior design, becoming a master questioner and living with purpose. And finally, the philosophy for living in it all, embracing impermanence. That's it. That's the plan. Now I know, looking at the whole blueprint can feel like a lot. It can seem overwhelming. But you don't build a cathedral all at once. You build it one single stone at a time. So my last question is for you. Don't worry about building the whole skyscraper tomorrow. Just look at the plans and decide. What's the first brick? What is the one single brick you're going to lay today?